Hello, dearest friends, dearest beautiful co-creator souls of love and light. This is Denari, Princess of the Sea, coming to you with a new video. I know it has been some time since I have done a video. I was actually waiting on a couple of different things to occur in my life, and also the occurrence of a new laptop, which I hope at some point soon I will be getting. So this is why it is audio right now instead of video, because I do not have the capability for video at this time. So this said, this video I felt called to do because I have had quite a few people coming to me about the twin soul dynamic, and so there are some things I felt called to share with you within that, and this can apply to all heart connections and sacred unions. If you know the group that is on Facebook that my twin soul and I have had for quite a few years now, is always being called Sacred Path, Sacred Union. And that has been in honor of his song that he created, Sacred Path, within the first year or so that we were together. And then also because that's what it is, twin souls are a sacred union. Now this said, what I wanted to speak about in regards to this is that there seems to be a paradigm shift occurring in which the word twin soul or twin flame or divine partnership or many other names for this heart-centered connection are being used. And if you have watched any of my previous videos in the most recent time, probably in about the last year or so, I have been speaking about this shift and about how it really is free from mattering what name you place upon this. What matters is the heart-centered connection and the love, and I've spoken about that even from the beginning of my series back in 2012. And so I want to speak about this because while there is this paradigm that is occurring with the shift in the names so that we open up to infinite possibility, and that is beautiful, this is free from taking away the actual soul essence of what a twin soul is. Now, for the purposes of this video, I am going to utilize the word twin soul, and I will explain why. This isn't just a word that came to me from the master artist, source, God, spirit. This was given as a reason. And this is one of the reasons why the word twin soul as opposed to twin flame or any other name is utilized. And that has to do with what we know and is the easiest way to understand about the twin soul heart-centered connection. And that is this: if you look at earthly twins cannot separate from one another. Now, of course, yes, we are all one, and so we're all connected, and then within that oneness, we're each individual creations of God or Source, Master Artist itself. Yet, what happens when earthly twins occur is they have a unique connection and bond. They share the exact same DNA, often look the same, and they have this connection. Now, to go along with that, recently I watched with the Hay House Summit, they had a movie on there called Entanglement, and I believe you can get it elsewhere as well, but it was part of the Hay House Summit, and it was based upon Greg Braden's research and his studies, and I believe it's also Bruce Lipton talks about this as well, in the experiments on entanglement, where you take two I believe it was the experiment was something along the lines where you took this one cell and you kind of divided it, and then they split it 14 kilometers in one direction and 14 kilometers in another direction. And then they tested to see what would happen. And even before the one, let's say on the right side, did anything, the one on the left side was feeling it. Okay, and so this is kind of how entanglement works. Now we have this with everyone, again, because we are each individual creations of Source. And so we're all interlinked and interconnected, but there's something very unique and different and special with that connection of earthly twins. And in this movie, Entanglement, it was perfectly shown how what the premise of this movie is, without giving any spoilers, is that what happens is this young man feels his twin, his earthly twin, his physical earthly twin brother on the other side of the globe, that something is seriously wrong with him. He keeps having these visions, and he sees it, and he literally feels the experience in his body, knowing that something has happened to his brother. And so he desperately tries to connect online because, you know, the internet goes down at his place, and he ends up back at his old high school, connected with his old science teacher that happens to be working, you know, late hours into the night on some physics theories and quantum physics and stuff like that. So, without giving any spoilers away, I will not say anything about the end of the movie for those of you who have not seen it. But this is a perfect example not only of what earthly twins experience, but this is also a perfect example of twin souls, because this is exactly what twin souls go through. And so you may have some very heart-centered connections with other people, and you may call that a divine union, or a twin flame, or a sacred partnership, or divine union, or, you know, all these other names. However, the twin soul essence is just like the earthly twin souls, and that is unique and different, and there are only one set of twin souls on this earth that are like that, just like there is only one set of earthly twins. Okay, if there were any more than that, then obviously it would be triplets, quadruplets, and whatnot. But they are unique, and they have a unique and special different connection that is different from any other that they would have here on this earth. And so twin souls are very much that, because again, twin souls are the same soul in two physical bodies. So I wanted to make an explanation for that, to say that, you know, while we are stepping into a realm of divine partnerships in which these sacred unions are free from being about earthly relationships, they're about soul connections and soul-based love, as opposed to earthly needs being met and stuff like that, that I've talked about in my previous videos and all of my articles. If you have read any of them, you would know that. That said, there is still a unique connection that is with a twin soul union that is only between those two souls, and is free from being in another way, just like earthly twins. And so while we're on this topic of this, with the twin soul essence having to do with earthly twins and the twin soul essence being very similar, I wanted to talk about the subject of cord cutting. I have had several people who have come to me, and then I also have read on certain groups that I'm on, and I even had a former friend of mine who spent an obscene amount of money, like $400 or something like that, to have this psychic, if you will, or this soul reading person do a cord cutting ceremony for her twin soul, because she wanted to cut the cords with her twin soul. And other people have, you know, made this thing where, oh, you can cut cords with your twin soul. And I'm here to tell you, both from personal experience with my own twin soul, and also from the many things that I have seen, as well as this inner knowing, just like earthly twins cannot ever sever their connection, nor can twin souls. So there is free from being any such thing as cord cutting. Now, what you can do is, if you make the choice in an earthly paradigm to be free from being in contact physically with your twin soul, you can do that. However, as far as cord cutting goes, I mean, you know, it's like earthly twins. Try to cut off your own soul. You can't do that. It's like breathing. Try to stop breathing. You're free from being able to do that. And so there really is no such thing as cord cutting. What cord cutting really represents is actually with other souls, perhaps near twins, soulmates, and whatnot that we have here on this life, where we're cutting the energetic ties with them so that their energetic connection with us is no longer affecting us. And that's really not something that you can, you know, physically do, like we cut cord cut, when a baby is born. Those are energetic soul ties and whatever. However, again, the soul agreement with that person is to be complete, or no matter how much cord cutting you do, it will not matter, soulmate or otherwise. But again, even with twin soul essence, unless you are free from being in your last life and you are not going to physically connect with your twin soul again, then you can put that, so to speak, energetic wall, if you will, but you will always be connected to your twin soul no matter what. And any energetic walls or blocks that people attempt to do, or cord cuttings that people attempt to do, that's why they're unsuccessful. And this woman that I was speaking of, and many others that I've heard, who have done such cord cuttings and whatnot, have been unsuccessful with twin soul essence, because again, it's like an earthly twin. You cannot cut off that connection. So one of the other things that was coming to speak about is something within the realm of interdependence, because I've spoken about this in other videos before, but within the twin soul essence and sacred unions with partners and whatnot, I felt free to speak about this, and also speaking about hearing another's heart. Now, there's a woman who I mentor, and if she's listening to this video, she'll know who I'm speaking of, and I'm sure she will. And so I'll give a shout out to her. I will not divulge her name, though, for privacy reasons. But that said, she came to me a few weeks back and asked for a session, saying she needed a Manspeak translator. So I've got to be nicknamed the Manspeak translator because I understand Manspeak. I hear a man's heart, and I can understand deeply what a man is really saying behind their words, the energetic vibration and essence behind their words. And so I can do this not just with the Divine Masculine, but I can also do it with all people. However, it's more keenly acute with my twin soul, and so it has given me the ability, through being with my twin soul, to be able to actually hear a man's heart on a deeper level than most women have. And part of the reason is, and this is something that I've been helping and mentor people in general, but specifically the Divine Feminine in, is that we as the Divine Feminine are usually so much in our warriorness that we don't take the time to hear a man's heart. And so this speaks to interdependence, which I will get into in a few moments, but it also speaks to something about, being in your own fulfillment and the balance of union. And so someone recently posted on a group that I'm on, talking about how she was stepping into her own self-love and developing her independence. And I was very happy for her in that sense. But here's what tends to happen with our Divine Feminine as a rule. This is something that we all go through. What we go through is that when we're first born into this world, into this earth, what happens is we have a sense of dependence, and in some cases, depending upon the function or dysfunction in the family, maybe there's a sense of codependent relationship between mother and child, father and child, and well-meaning people who are, in the child's life. And so what you do is you become very dependent upon your family, and that's natural for food and whatnot, until you can actually start to do this on your own. So you have a dependence there. And like I said, in some cases it becomes a codependence, depending upon the nature of your upbringing. And so then what happens around the time of that we hit the teenage years is we seek for independence. And so we seek in some ways for self-love, and to get out of that, dependence, because we feel stifled and we feel smothered, and we feel, that we need to get out, we need to break free. And so we come into this independence. And so it's a form of self-love. And then what happens is we end up usually going into a relationship, for some of us, or a marriage or whatnot, and we end up repeating that same cycle. We become dependent in most cases, at least most earthly relationships become that way, and then we struggle again for our independence. Now, what happens in the Divine Feminine is that we'll either go through repeated cycles of this, or we will go through it maybe just once, and it's traumatic enough to where we stay in this warrior womanism of I'm going to do it all myself, and it's up to me and whatnot, and we develop this independence in our self-love that we forget about the balance. I've spoken about this in my videos before about Buddha's way being the middle path, that he experienced one extreme or the other. Well, the dependence and codependence, or independence on the other side, is one extreme or another. And these are forms of being in these extremes, but free from being about balance. When we come into balance, we come into what's known as interdependence. And one need only to look in nature to understand what interdependence is. The sun in the sky requires the tree just as much as the tree requires the sun. So it is a balance, and if you look at nature, nature is a perfect example of this. And so it is interdependence is beautiful, where loving oneself is free from ever being selfish. It's actually very soulful. What tends to happen is, and this is also for the Divine Masculine too, we come into such independence, if you will, and such self-love that we end up using this self-love and this I'm going to do it all myself, and source is my only fulfillment, and I don't need any relationship, or I don't need anybody, and I don't need this and I don't need that. No, you are free from needing it from a needy standpoint. But as we know that a baby, when it's born, if not held within the first moments of life, will wither and die because of not having human connection and human love. And so we come here to have that throughout our lives. And so some people tend to use this as a self-defense mechanism of, oh, I don't need anything, and Source is my only fulfillment, and I'll just be in love with Source. And I know this because I did this. I sought for my independence, and I had two major things happening in my life. The original death of my original twin soul, and then also being with my former husband, in which I was in that place of self-love, independence. I got to do it all myself. And even though I was married, I pretty much felt like a single parent anyway, because he was never really there physically. And then when he wasn't there. And I really wasn't there in the marriage either, because I cut myself off from that love. So in that sense, I became that warrior woman doing it all myself kind of thing, and I was out of balance. And so I used that as a self-defense mechanism to avoid intimacy with one person. And so along the spiritual path, when we develop this, oh, Source is my only fulfillment, some people take it to that extreme of, oh, well, since Source is my only fulfillment, I don't need a relationship. Well, no, you don't need it in the sense of neediness. However, we require that for the journey, for the path. And so because we are community orientated and bonding orientated beings in human form, we then desire to have that connection, and there is nothing wrong with that. And then that brings us into that place of interdependence and relationship, of that middle path. And so my twin soul wrote a quote recently, and it's actually something he's said to me off and on over the years, in which he says, you know, if you love someone, set them free. If they return, set them free again. And then I added to that what I've always said, and I believe I've also said it in my videos here, which is the essence of love is freedom, and the essence of freedom is love. And so I had recently put these two together, the first sentence being his, and the second sentence being mine, and married our words together, as we have done many times over the last 7 years. And I put it out into a graphic on Facebook. And so I had also added a channel that came through that I wish to share with you about this in relation to the interdependence. And what this was sparked by was a quote by Osho that talks about being alone. And so I had written this in channel to go with the quote and had said this: there is an Osho quote that speaks of being alone is the way to love another. Being alone actually means taking moments within oneself or soul to be within. In that, we are then able to love, share, and see into the deepest core of another's heart and be with them in that love without possessing another or addicted or making another somehow responsible for our happiness, as our happiness then comes from within and from our source of love itself, which is source itself. We can be and do this and also be in a union, a relationship, a sacred path, sacred union, a twin soul union, whatever you so choose to call this, with another, and creating balance within having alone time and then also time together. So I agree with the Osho quote to a point. You can be this and still be in union with someone. Being alone is free from being that you're not in a relationship. A lot of people take this and pervert it to mean as a self-defense mechanism. Freeing someone means that you're still with them in union, yet you're free from possessing them. And it is more along the lines of having a union in which you are connected in a sense of love. And it goes to another channel in which that I wrote as well recently, which I will also read, that goes and coincides with it. For some souls on this earth, they choose to be within relationship, union with someone as a means to come into God, love, source, the master artist. For me on the path, and is what is the new template or paradigm of relationships and union actually is, I already realize that I am source, God, love incarnate. And as I already have arrived being in union with God, it is from this whole, perfect, and completeness that I choose to share with another that completeness and union. A partner that I can share my completeness with, that allows me to grow into the awareness that I am already and always whole, perfect, complete, and beautiful simply as I am. And he with me, for I see whomever my partner is as this as well. Relationship union is a living together, sleeping together, being together day by day, where you just love to love, where you love because you are just loving, not because you need someone to love you back, but simply because it is what there is to do, is to love. You just simply love to love. You love because this is who you are, which is love. Two souls being within this consciousness of spiritual maturity, of loving to love, is a very blissful, a very giving, a very compassionate, and a very generous relationship and union, in which you can go deeper and higher together than you could on your own. And in this, you are being within union with Source first, and within your own being, and then with one another, and then giving that to the world. It is a vibration to where you just feel the presence of love when in this person's presence, and you are just drawn to this soul to be with this particular being, as when you see them, you see love, God, Source itself. And they are free from coming to complete you. Rather, they come to assist you in the revelation that you are already complete, so that when you are in their presence, you feel complete and you recognize your own completeness when you gaze upon him or her. and you mirror that completeness back to him or her, and they do such for you as well. And it becomes a very delicious, a very juicy, a very engaging at-one-ment or union. And it feels like home. And thus it empowers you to go out into the world with that sense of completeness and give to the world your gifts, both individually and together. It is an I am complete, in search of the revelation, the insight of my own completeness. So this is what twin soul union, that sacred path of sacred love, is really all about. And so when I speak of twin souls, or I speak about that heart connection, that sacred union, this is the divine template that twin souls in this unique connection, like earthly twins have, are bringing forth now in this paradigm to this earth, to help all be in balance, where we have self-love, and in interdependence we love one another. And so within that, being the man-speak translator, as this woman definitely was so kind enough to anoint me as, and I thought was quite so beautiful, this is the essence of freedom. This is the essence of love. And so freedom and being alone is free from meaning that you're not in a relationship. You're able to have this balance of both. And so within that, there is no rescuing. There is no a man feeling like he has to be a certain way, or a woman having to be a certain way. It's simply this melding of these energies, where aggression of the woman is, and the competitive patterns of a woman or a man are just laid at rest, and where we're hearing each other's hearts. And so how do we hear one another's hearts? And I'm going to share with you a story related to that to help you. Now, I've spoken about many times on how to heal another's heart in many of the videos that I have, but I wanted to take this a little bit deeper and share an example of something that happened just recently. My twin soul and I were working on getting out a video of his for a new song that he had just done. And this song was called Out of the Dark and Into the Light. And so Out of the Dark Into the Light is a beautiful song in which it is a spiritual activism song, but different from normal, quote-unquote, spiritual activism songs, in which there's a essence of, riling up. This is actually coming from a place of peace, much like other songs that are out there. And so when we went to put this video out, a mutual friend of the two of ours became very angry. And she literally lashed out on Facebook, reposting the video and also making comments on his video, lashing out at him and scrutinizing him and telling him, how could he utilize the same title, and, oh, she has a song this way and she has works and whatnot. Now, he immediately became in flight or fight mode and became very angry and attacked her back. Prove that, I'm taking your song's title, and I did no such thing. And he was defending himself and everything else. Now, I texted him and I said, whoa, hold on a minute here. Can you listen to her heart? She is just hurting within her. She just wants to know that she's loved and that she matters and that her work matters too. And so what I did was I responded to her in such comments, and I acknowledged her, and I let her know that I loved her and I appreciated her, and that she was valued, and that her works mattered, and that she mattered. And so I was hearing her heart. Now, I did not know the circumstances and whatnot, but I knew she was hurting. She came back and she immediately shifted She then said she loved me. She said she loved my twin soul. She also, wrote privately and explained that something had happened in her life, which I will not divulge here about, but something that had happened in her life that was causing her pain, and this is why she lashed out. So this was a perfect lesson or soul remembering for my twin soul to realize that instead of reaching for that text message and texting and lashing out at me or her or anyone else, to stop, take a deep breath for a moment. Because oftentimes when we want to reach for that cell phone or that email that we're going to lash out at someone in response and or defend ourselves, we're in anxiety. And we are hurting within ourselves because we're taking personally what this person has said. But if you can listen to another's heart by simply doing this, before you reach for that text message or that email, stop and take 4 slow, deep breaths and come into a calmness and a centeredness of your heart. Feeling your heart center. And I've talked about this for many years on all my YouTube videos, the meditational satsangs that I've done, the videos in which I talk about this. Well, really when you do that, you're able to hear your heart, and then from there you can listen to another's heart, to where you can actually hear that person's heart and that they're hurting or that something's going on. I'll give another brief example, and this has to do with this woman who came to me because she was very distraught, and she said, I need a man-speak translator. I don't understand what's going on. My twin soul flaked out on me twice. He canceled, meeting with me, and she developed this whole entire thought process about this, in which she said, oh, he just doesn't want to be with me, he doesn't love me, what really happened, and the reason that he canceled, she came to find out, was because his daughter was sick, and he needed to be with her, and if he wasn't with her, he needed to hold space for her, and deal with the family dynamics that he was dealing with. And so this is why he could not be with his twin soul. It was not about that he didn't love her. It wasn't about any of these thought processes that she had built up in her head. And so in the deeper work that I do with people in twin soul sessions and other mentoring sessions, I work through those things in hearing another's heart. Hearing a man's heart of what they're really saying, as oftentimes they'll be afraid and they'll say something like, oh, even when they're in the same room with you, that, oh, I'm feeling lonely. And then you in your divine feminine are freaking out. Well, what do you mean? I'm sitting right here, and you're thinking this in your head. But what he's really saying to you, if you hear his heart, is that, yeah, I know you're sitting here with me. But right now in this moment, what's true for me is I'm just feeling this sense of loneliness. It has nothing to do with you. It's just what's going on within me. And once you understand that, and you can take someone into your heart in compassion and hold them in love, this opens the door for that heart-centered connection with all beings, with all people in deep, intimate relations and sacred unions, in our twin soul connections, and with all people in all of our relationships and unions in life. And this is what the real awakening is all about. It's about being in this place of interdependence where we're hearing one another's hearts and we're in that place of deep love. And so I invite you now to simply take a moment to close your eyes and to take some slow, deep Buddha belly breaths, where your stomach expands, and as you release, you feel into your heart center. And you may even place your hands on your heart if you wish, if you feel called to. And as I've spoken about in my videos before, the thymus gland starts about at your breastbone. For women, it's where your cleavage starts. And then it travels up to where your throat center is, your throat chakra. And then it fans out like fairy wings or butterfly wings across your chest. And you can just massage that as you're deeply breathing. And just feel into your heart essence. Feel into that sense of calmness and centeredness. Knowing that you are safe right now here in this moment. And then bring to mind someone in your life who you feel close to. It could be a family member, it could be your partner, it could be your soulmate, your twin soul, a near twin. Anyone you feel right now in this moment that you would like to have that heart-centered connection with, that perhaps maybe you're struggling with in that connection. Just as you keep focusing on your deep breaths, bring them into your heart center and let go of any thought processes you have about them or things that they've said or done. And just feel into their heart. And listen to what their heart is saying. Perhaps the reason that the difficulty is there is because they're in pain, physically, emotionally, spiritually, and they don't know how to handle that pain. Focus what's good in them. See the God in them. See who they are as their soul beyond all that pain, beyond all that suffering, beyond all that lashing out and hurting. And then just as you would do with a child who has fallen and hurt their knee, pick up their inner child and hold them. And let them know you understand. Let them know that they're valued and loved and matter. They matter to you. Just feel into that. In any moment that you are struggling with someone in your life, practice this. And even if you're struggling with yourself, do this as well in self-love and balance. Because interdependence is all about balance, where you love yourself and you love all. Be in this heart coherence love, and be love now, for this is who you are. I love you all. Espavo.